Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to WatchYouWant.com. Happy post-Merry Christmas, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at a watch that pretty much defines the sports watch. It defines the dive watch. It even defines its brand. This is arguably the most recognizable model made by the most recognizable name in luxury watches. More than the most famous name in watches, Rolex is a household name among the general public, and the Rolex Submariner is a permanent part of the popular culture and the popular psyche. This watch is ingrained in the minds of those who know nothing about watches. This is the most desired watch from the most coveted line of watches. I would argue that this watch is, despite its Swiss origin, something of a global icon. Now let's talk about the specific reference. This is a 5512. This is one of the most desirable collectible vintage Rolexes, and this one with a serial number in the 1,800,000 range is approximately a 1968. I'm going to point out some of the characteristics that make this watch, which could rightly be called a Bond-era Submariner, unique. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Submariner generally because, like I said, it is an icon. It does kind of transcend generations and styles. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the specific condition of our example and what makes this one a standout among vintage 5512s. Now, the 5512 was part of the late 50s bumper crop of Submariners that really crystallized the look and feel of the watch. Earlier models didn't have crown guards, or they had gilt dials, or they had bezels with red inserts, or they had big crowns, or they had small crowns. But the 5512 and its sister, the 5513, from the late 50s, early 60s, the 5512 came first. They started to gel the basic Submariner concept. And by 1965, the die was pretty much set. Short of the date, which debuted on the subsequent 1680 model, just about everything that defines a modern Submariner is present here. And I'm going to get into in a minute why you may not want the date on one of these. So the 5512 debuted in late 58, early 59 as the deluxe watch within the Submariner line, and by 1965 it had acquired chronometer-grade movement. So what you're seeing here is actually what's called the 6-line dial, because you have Rolex Oyster Perpetual, then you have a meters first, 200 meters, 660 footprint Submariner, and then you have superlative chronometer officially certified. And that's because with the arrival of the 1516 and the 1570, or 1560 and 1570 movements from 65 on, this watch could be certified as a chronometer, and this example in fact is. Now, we've timed this watch on our chronoscope, and we've inspected the movement and confirmed that it is the higher beat, 19,800 beat per hour, 1570. So even among 5512s, this one's just a little bit more technically advanced, a little bit more mechanically refined. That's with Rolex's signature microstella adjustment balance and their hand-formed Breguet overcoil hairspring for additional stability through shock and thermal variation. But the Submariner that you see here incorporates a lot of desirable features. First and foremost, a very original bezel with a beautiful tritium patina. In addition to being that 6-line variant, 6 lines, they exist with both the meters first and the feet first. You want meters first for the sake of rarity. It's less common, it's got more of a vintage vibe to it, and when combined with the beautifully intact dial that you see here, it's that combination of a winning patina and a rare original production specification that makes this watch just killer. Now, the earliest of the 5512s are charming pieces. They have a gilt dial, very handsome, 4 lines of print, but at the same time, they're not certified chronometers, and they're extremely scarce. Plus, they're just a little bit more limited. I think maybe those are just a little bit too collectible to use on a daily basis, whereas this is a fantastic watch in outstanding condition that's been authenticated by Rolex in Geneva. So you have a watch that is basically set it and forget it. You can wear it like a modern sports watch, and yet you have a vintage Rolex of impeccable provenance. Now, I will mention one thing. This is a service bezel insert. You can see that the characters, the numerals and the indexes are just a little bit thinner than the original so-called fat font that shipped with these. But in every other respect, this watch is completely original and outstanding. It even has the correct and original 7206 bracelet with the 80 end links. The watch presents essentially as new. And when you look at the polish on the flanks of the riveted Rolex bracelet, you can see the brushed tops of the links, the brushed clasp, outstanding definition in the stamped clasp right there. You can see how full the crown guards are. This watch has survived polishing into the quintessence of dust that afflicts so many of the older vintage Rolexes. All of its definitions are sharp. There is no loss of stainless steel here. It presents as outstanding. And like I said, this watch is not some delicate daisy. You can wear this every day. With no apologies, you've got a James Bond style Submariner that looks just as good as any modern sub-reference, and that's part of the fun of vintage Rolex. You know you've got something that's rare and special with the history, but at the same time, because Rolex doesn't believe in planned obsolescence and their styles endure, you have something that's instantly recognizable as what it is, a Rolex Submariner. It's kind of like having your cake and eating it too. This isn't some vintage piece that's only going to appeal to nerds on forums. This watch, like I said, is an icon. And then there is that James Bond connection. Now, Roger Moore wore a sub that looked exactly like this, actually the somewhat decontented 5513 in Live and Let Die. So you've got that Roger Moore James Bond Rolex look right here, but you've got more mechanical refinement with the chronometer movement than Bond ever enjoyed. So you get one up on Bond. This is the one time you will. This watch is available with its original Rolex certification paperwork in outstanding condition from watchyouwant.com. This is the Rolex 5512 Submariner, sometimes called the no date. The reality is that no date is the original configuration for the sub, so properly speaking, we should call the ones with dates date Submariners. So this is the original image of the classic Submariner, as God and Rolex intended. There's your wrist shot right there. To get better images in high resolution with the Rolex service paperwork, check out our website, watchyouwant.com. We are the luxury pre-owned watch experts. We're also authorities in vintage Rolex, and we would love to talk about this watch with you. Give us a call. Check out our website. I'm Tim with watchyouwant.com. Check us out. I'm confident. On our website, if you're into Rolex, you just might find the watch you want.